the double acting solenoid on Mercedes K-Series gearboxes. I happen to have a treat for you guys. It's a little bit of an obscure discussion, but today we're going to talk about this guy, the double acting solenoid on Mercedes K4A025 and Mercedes K4A040 transmissions. Now, which transmissions are these? The K4A025 was last used in the 108 series in 1969 and last used in the Pagoda SL in 1971 so up to the end of the production. This is a 16-bolt, stubby-looking 4-speed automatic that Mercedes designed and developed in 1960 for use in the 300 SE, 220S, 220 SE, and then eventually the 190 and 200 in their diesel variants. So this transmission depends largely on this double acting solenoid to upshift and downshift smoothly and to control what's called its modulating pressure, which is the pressure that controls when the transmission shifts. And occasionally these solenoids freeze, so we're going to talk about what to do when these freeze. Now, you have two options when you're dealing with your double acting solenoid. The first option is to remove the double acting solenoid through a hatch located in the transmission cover. If you pull your tunnel carpet and pull your heater valve, your heater ducts, you'll see a trapdoor that's held in with 4 8mm screws, and you can actually get this thing off of the top of the transmission using that duct. However, if you run into a circumstance where you don't have the time or the ability to access the duct, you can actually remove the end of the double acting solenoid while it is in the car through an access hatch in the right side of the transmission tunnel. And so I would like to show that to you guys at some point. That is where the adjustments of the modulating pressure rod are carried out, but what we need to do right now is we need to study this thing and see how the double acting solenoid is repairable and where the access point is to repair it in case it seizes. So a seized double acting solenoid can occur on just about any Mercedes. And usually if they sit, this is what it happens. When you step on the accelerator, this rod, this little arm should move towards the front of the car. When you take your foot off the accelerator with the ignition on, the little arm should move back to the closed position all the way to the rear of the car. And then when you press the accelerator down to the floor, as in you're kicking down the transmission, this arm should move all the way against this end piece right here. So we're going to take these old screws off. Believe it or not, this isn't a transmission that was really disgusting and nasty on the outside, but I think was still okay on the inside. So we're putting that back in the 280S right now after flushing the inside, changing a bunch of the internals. So inside the double acting solenoid, at the end is a little housing. And of course this housing can seize. Let me see if I can get it unstuck. Sometimes getting it unstuck can be a real challenge, but if you remove this little housing and you soak this pin or this arm in solvent, it will usually free it up. But this is the solenoid itself right here. So as you can see, it moves forward and backward. It's got a little tooth and it moves outward. This is actually, so just because you see this whole thing frozen, this is usually actually where the issue is. So you have to get this thing loose, and it can be a little tricky. What I like to do is I like to work the thing in and in and out. Now, granted, it's going to take some work to get this thing unstuck, but the good news is that the core of the double acting solenoid is actually okay. Now, putting this back together, the pigtail comes out of the front. You really have to be you want to get this thing all the way in so that you can go through and hook, and then see, this is all the way out, this is all the way out, and then what I'm going to do, because this thing's not fully unseized yet.
And I'm pretty much following your hands, that's why
Okay, cool. By the way, sometimes I'm known for using some excessively violent methods with this stuff. Just don't always necessarily pay attention to that part. What I need this to do, though, is I need this to move all the way out so that I can bolt these together. So that's not a perfect double acting solenoid, but one of these days, if I need one, I will probably be able to save this one, clean it up, put 2 new screws in, fix the wiring pigtail, and then have a functioning double acting solenoid again. Now, the other thing at the double acting solenoid is that there's a switch on the throttle body, and this switch controls the kickdown. It's got 2 electrical leads. It's a brown Bakelite switch. You need to make sure that when the throttle is closed and the ignition is on, power is flowing through this switch, or you will get a very rough downshift. This often happens on 280 SLs and similar cars when people adjust the air conditioning or the idle solenoid. And what happens is the throttle sticks out too far, the air inlet sticks out too far, the throttle switch doesn't close, and you get the characteristic rough downshift. Anyway, if you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe, and please tap the bell for notifications so that you can know when our next video is coming out. And if you enjoyed what you saw or you learned something from it, leave a comment below letting us know that this kind of content was informative. Again, this video may not necessarily be for everybody, but it does demonstrate a couple of things. It demonstrates that Mercedes engineering from the 1960s was actually pretty repairable. I mean, a lot of people might see this old double-acting solenoid and pitch it in the trash, but I actually think that it could be repaired, sandblasted, reused, and repaired for another day in case I got a car where the solenoid was missing or burned up or whatever. You know, this is why I tell people putting that LS small block in a 250S isn't always the best idea, because what you're doing is you're pitching, you know, decades of excellent engineering that won't be repeated. So I just want you guys to think about that first. So anyway, enjoy working on your own Mercedes Benz, and remember, there's not a problem that you can't solve with some hard work and some determination.